Oh, hey, good evening, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our very special live stream broadcast of the Saskatchewan election debate, where leader of the Saskatchewan Party, Scott Moe, is going head to head with Carla Beck of the NDP. I'm your host, Sheila Gunn Reid, and regular viewers of The Gun Show will know this lady. This is my good friend in real life, former broadcaster, mom of 6, Regina school board candidate, and viral get off my lawn mom, Lise Merle, from her home in Regina. Lise, how's it going?
Hello, darling girl, and hello, Rebel fam again. It couldn't be better. Nobody loves Saskatchewan politics like I love Saskatchewan politics, and this is going to be a real interesting one tonight. So I'm so happy to be here with you.
Yeah, I'm really glad. When we were hemming and hawing about whether we're going to host the debate, we hosted the one in BC. We're probably going to host the one in New Brunswick, and I think the issues in Saskatchewan are really top of mind, not just for me as an Albertan, but I think for people in Saskatchewan, of course, but for Canadians writ large. It's a carbon tax election. It's a pronouns election. It's parents' rights election. It's a big government versus small government election, and I think it's an inflation election, and I think that's really where people are across the country. And a lot of the really good ideas that Danielle Smith has, I think she stole many of them from Scott Moe.
Well, I think they started out in Saskatchewan, and then, just like Alberta is wont to do, you came along and got bigger and bargy and more in chargey, and just sort of followed the lead of Saskatchewan. The big nuke drop last year of the notwithstanding clause was an incredible moment for the people of Saskatchewan, and I really think that it made the rest of the country brave, and we need a lot more bravery in politics. So we'll see what's going to happen tonight.
Okay, let's talk about bravery in politics. Okay, so first let's talk about how many people in the world might know you. As I said, you are the viral "Get Off My Lawn" mom. An NDP door knocker came to your house on Mother's Day of all days, and that is your very special day because you're a mom of 6. And as I said, you are running for the Regina Public School Board because of this issue, because of the
Yes.
secrecy between teachers and kids apart from parents in the classroom, where they can just socially transition your child without your knowledge or consent, or at least they used to be able to do that. Well, you asked an NDP door knocker about that. Let's roll this clip because this is how we should all handle it.
You believe that teachers should keep secrets from parents?
I may not agree with you, but
Do you
I will
believe that
answer.
teachers should keep secrets from parents?
Yes,
You do believe that they should keep secrets from parents?
parents.
Get
are-
off my lawn.
Thank you, Ren.
Good luck to you, kind sir.
Good day, sir. Good day, sir. Get off my lawn. No offense. But yeah, that guy had been to our house twice before that moment. And the first time, I just couldn't believe that he was even running for the NDP. I mean, this is the anti-parent party in Saskatchewan. They were right out in front saying, you know, they wanted Soji in the schools, and this is the same program that John Russett is promising to get rid of. They, you know, they're completely offside as it pertains to family rights in Saskatchewan. So I question why he was even running for them to begin with. And then the second time, you know, it was just sort of like, I said no and closed the door. And so that was the third time. So he got the blast on the third time. But yeah, Mother's Day, that's when he decided to show up. So
It was beautiful. Now,
Thank you.
we alluded to the use of the notwithstanding clause. Why don't you tell? We've got a clip of Scott Moe talking about it, but why don't you just give us the Coles Notes version of what's happening in Saskatchewan with parents' rights? Because I guarantee you, this is going to be a huge part of the debate tonight. Because it is one of those things that really sets Scott Moe apart from the NDP in Saskatchewan. It's one of those things that is a dividing cultural issue in this country. Either you are a crazy person who thinks that little kids should change their gender, or you're normal. And Scott Moe seems to be normal. So give us the Coles Notes version of what is unfolding in Saskatchewan right now.
Okay, well, pretty much the story started last June when a Planned Parenthood third-party provider, health education provider, showed up in a Lumsden High School with a set of absolutely vulgar and vile sex cards for the grade 10 students there. And when the government of Saskatchewan was notified about this, they just locked it down. They said, okay, no more third-party providers teaching health in Saskatchewan, especially in the month of June. That was part of their grand plan. But they said, so we're proposing legislation where parents will have to give consent before any name or pronoun changes occur within schools. The left went absolutely nuts, like absolutely nuts. I've never seen anything like it. The media blowback from that simple and common sense approach. Like, yes, parents should be allowed to know if their kids are changing genders at school and changing and trying on new identities and floating new names in their closed school environments. And so the government of Saskatchewan said, right, well, no, we're gonna wield the notwithstanding clause. This is our constitutional nuclear button. And they said, we will chase it all the way up to the Supreme Court of Canada if need be. So they went to court over it. Interestingly enough, the notwithstanding clause did not work as intended, because the argument by the woke left, the judge basically said, no, we're going to let everybody make their arguments. So was it 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago now, Sheila?
Yeah,
The Saskatchewan Court of Appeals heard all of the submissions from the government of Saskatchewan, the government of Alberta, and the government of New Brunswick, who are all on our side. And then heard all of the submissions from the interveners, from all of the woke, crazy, captured interveners that argued children have rights and they can pretty much do what they want when it comes to gender. And here we have parents that are saying, you don't get to influence children from kindergarten on and help them make humongous life-altering decisions without the parents in the room. So parents have been really relegated to this position of being passive observers in their children's lives by education in Canada. And this is not just a Saskatchewan problem. This is a problem right across the nation of Canada. Our education industry, I'll say, has really gotten way too far off course. Like, they are pushing every boundary that families uphold as it pertains to what happens to our kids, and they've really violated our trust, and we're seeing that across the nation of Canada.
We've got a clip from Scott Moe explaining why he's going to use the notwithstanding clause, and then after that, I'll explain why that legal challenge that you and I sat through, listening to these activist groups and unions, which I think is a really important part of the story here, argue for a remedy to the use of the notwithstanding clause. It's an end run around consequences is what they're doing here. So let's hear from Scott Moe, because I think this is going to be a huge part of the debate tonight, regardless of what CBC is trying to tell me. CBC is trying to tell me it's all about healthcare. No, no, unless you count gender transition, as healthcare. So let's listen to this clip.
The notwithstanding clause is not utilized often in this province, utilized much more often in a province like Quebec. And listen, maybe just a comment with respect to the notwithstanding clause. It was part of those very charter discussions advocated on by the premiers at the time of Saskatchewan and Alberta, because there was, as those rights that were included under the charter were being discussed. There was other rights that were identified as well that were not included under the charter. And it was also identified that at some point in the future, there could be the collision of these charter protected rights and other rights that are important to Saskatchewan residents and to Canadian residents as well. And when those rights collide, the notwithstanding clause was provided to ensure that the elected government of the day would be able to make the decision on as to which of those rights would be in effect for the people that they ultimately represent. And in this case, that's the rights of a parent to ensure they're involved in their children's decision, bring our parents closer to our children's classrooms, schools, and ultimately make for a more reactionary and more responsive education system in the province.
Okay, so right there, he's making a lot of sense. So he's basically saying, you've got to inform parents. And for these people who say, look, we don't want to do anything in secrecy, why are you fighting in court for secrecy then? But the use of the notwithstanding clause basically shields the anti-pronoun law and the parent notification law, the Parents' Bill of Rights, from legal challenges on constitutional grounds. So it says, notwithstanding the Constitution, this law will, or your charter rights, this law will remain in effect. It will remain operational, is the language that they use. And so the activists know that they can't get this law overturned. It's been shielded by the notwithstanding clause. So what they're in court asking for is an acknowledgement that their rights are being set aside with the use of the notwithstanding clause. And the reason they want that is these activist teachers have absolutely no intent of abiding by the law. That's why their unions were there fighting for this, because then they can say, well, I didn't follow the law. I did keep these things from parents, but now I'm sheltered from job action and disciplinary actions because we have an acknowledgement from the province that the use of the notwithstanding clause does violate rights, whatever they might be, whatever rights the teachers think they have to your kids. I think
that's exactly what they're arguing. They're arguing, the unions, and this is CUPE. Carla Beck has a real cozy relationship with CUPE. CUPE, the Saskatchewan Federation of Labor, and the Canadian Teachers Federation. This is the nation's largest teachers union. That's sort of the umbrella organization over all of the provincial teacher unions, are arguing that they want to keep secrets from parents. They want to keep making major life-altering and inherently dangerous decisions with children outside of the line of sight of the parents, and they want to keep doing it without consequence. And there must be consequences to doing this to families. You know, since announcing my run for Regina Public School Division, I've had nothing but parents reaching out to me and telling me what a hellscape their life is after being impacted by this issue.
Mhm.
I got dads telling me that, you know, for the last 2 years, these parents are at the end of every one of their ropes. There has been no recourse for them, none whatsoever, because these unions have just trampled over the sanctity of their families. And it's immensely destructive. I can't believe that this, like, I still, Sheila, I still can't believe that this is our reality in Canada. And yet, this is exactly where we are. These unions have gotten so far away from advocating for their workers and so ingratiated with social justice issues that really, I think the country of Canada is questioning their utility anymore. Really, that's how far away they've gotten away from their mandates.
And I said off the top of the show, this is really an issue that sort of began in Saskatchewan with a bold stance by Scott Moe, and then it has spread across the country. Alberta said, yeah, us too. And we're just in the process of finalizing that legislation that would stop gender transition for children under the age of 16. It requires parental consent for changes to gender in the classroom and outlaws men playing in women's sports. That's what we're doing in Alberta right now. We heard John Rustad. This is a campaign issue for him in BC, and the BC Conservatives are surging. He's going to gut SOGI out of the school system, which is pernicious and really forces gender theory onto the little ones, the littlest ones. And in New Brunswick, this is a campaign issue. Policy 713 is their parental notification legislation in their education system, and it is a campaign issue for him. I mean, this is an issue everywhere, and if it isn't, it will be in the coming election. But it's not the only issue in Saskatchewan, because Scott Moe's like, slap the cuffs on me, Trudeau. I'll go to jail before I start extracting the carbon tax from home heating from the people of my province. I think we've got a clip of him from the other day, Olivia, do we not? Where he released this campaign statement. And I was talking to you, Lise, last night about this, or earlier today, I can't remember, about just the language he uses in here, tying the local NDP to Justin Trudeau's bad policies. So good messaging, Scott Moe.
Last fall, the Trudeau government announced a carbon tax exemption on home heating oil. This was primarily for people in Atlantic Canada. We asked them to extend that exemption to natural gas, which is what most people here in Saskatchewan use to heat our homes. They refused. In fact, one Trudeau minister said that if we wanted a carbon tax exemption, that we should have elected more Liberals. This is no way to run a country. The Saskatchewan Party took swift and immediate action to ensure that Saskatchewan people are treated fairly by removing the carbon tax on natural gas and electricity that we use to heat our homes. That exemption was just for the current year, 2024. So today I'm announcing that a re-elected Saskatchewan Party government will extend that exemption until the end of 2025. This exemption saved the average household about $400 in 2024, and it will save that same household $480 in the coming year. What we really need is a change of government in Ottawa, and a new government that axes the carbon tax completely. Let's not forget that the Trudeau carbon tax has the full support of the NDP, both in Ottawa as well as here in Saskatchewan, where many NDP MLAs and candidates have said that they support Trudeau and his carbon tax. Of course, the real solution is for the federal government to get rid of the carbon tax altogether. But that's not going to happen until voters get rid of the Trudeau NDP government. Until then, the Saskatchewan Party will continue to ensure tax fairness for Saskatchewan families by keeping the carbon tax off of your home heating bill.
I'll visit him in jail.
He was like, listen, come, try and come and get me. Try and load me up. Yes, our former a former MLA named Dustin Duncan was like, well, I suppose that means me then. I mean, try it, we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But no, there's nobody that loves scrapping with the federal government more than the people of Saskatchewan. And this should be a real lesson to Scott Moe, because every time he brings up that he's fighting the federal government, his approval ratings go up. Like people like it when he fights with the federal government, and he should fight with the federal government on a lot of the crazy things that the federal government has done to us. Not the least of which, gender in education. Okay, gender in education, the strains on our healthcare and infrastructure, and the carbon tax. If I mean, normalize the notwithstanding clause, Scott Moe. Normalize it. If that were me, okay, I would be Quebec Junior, is what I would be doing. If you were trying to build a water pipe in Saskatchewan, I would put the notwithstanding clause on it. Any piece of legislation would get it. That was how effective it is. Normalize the notwithstanding clause.
Yeah, and that's another thing that Scott Moe is doing that Danielle Smith is examining here. So you guys can sort of do this because you have a crown corporation, as you have many of them in Saskatchewan. Generally, I'm against them. Generally, I'm like that. You're stealing entrepreneurial opportunities from the working man government. However,
you see how it can
Danielle
work
Smith,
to our benefit?
just this one time. And so we are having we are considering the creation of a pass-through regulator where there would be no collection of the carbon tax, so that we could replicate. It would just be like a paper pass through what you guys are doing. And I'm not joking when I say that we copy a ton of ideas coming from Saskatchewan and just do them a little bit noisier, as Albertans tend to do. Yeah, like you guys had your own chief firearms officer. We're like, yeah, well, that sounds like a good idea. Let's do that and be real boisterous about it. You want to fight with the Trudeau government on the carbon tax. We're always launching legal challenges against them. You guys brought in parents' rights first. We thought that's a hell of an idea. Let's do that too. And like your big sister brother in Saskatchewan or in Alberta, we are also victims of the mainstream media's exaggerations of the threat of an NDP overtaking the government. So if you get all your news from the CBC, like they're neck and neck, like that was one of the headlines I read today. NDP
are they though? Are they though?
No, not even.
I don't.
If you go to 338,
so.
Thanks for bringing that up. 338. The Saskatchewan Party is up 5% in the popular vote projection, and it is a 99% chance of the Saskatchewan Party winning, regardless of what the mainstream media will have you believe, that there's this surge in NDP support, and that everyone is super mad at Scott Moe about healthcare, and so they're holding Scott Moe's feet to the fire on this. I just think people are more worried about the cost of groceries and home heating and what's happening to their kids at school than really anything else.
Yeah, and like, far be it for me to point out that Carla Beck's unions have a lot to do with our plummeting healthcare system and our plummeting education system. She likes to point out, and we'll hear this over and over and over, Saskatchewan is last, she'll say. Saskatchewan is last when it comes to healthcare. Saskatchewan is last when it comes to education. Saskatchewan, okay, we're not. Most of our problems are coming from an influx of new Canadians that are stressing our system to a point that we can't handle. This is most of the reason why nobody can access healthcare in Saskatchewan is because of the decisions of Justin Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh in Ottawa. I mean, far be it for me to point that out, but Carla Beck's unions have a lot to do with all of the problems that we have in Saskatchewan right now, and I hope Scott Moe makes her eat that.
Yeah, remind me again the ties between, besides your general NDP ties to QP, but what are Carla Beck's ties directly to QP?
Carla Beck is married to a QP organizer.
Oh, so it's the same thing as Rachel Notley. Okay,
exactly the same. So yeah, so when people watch the CBC, on the rare occasion that they're still watching the CBC, or whatever, and you see 1,000 people outside of Saskatchewan's legislature, with flags and with rah-rahing, and they have noisemakers, and they're losing their crazy minds. Well, the reason Carla Beck can do that is because she just looks on the next pillow over and says, can you have 1,000 people? take the afternoon off to come to the ledge tomorrow. I mean, it's
Right.
just so contrived. The whole thing is so contrived, and it's meant to look like there's a lot of support behind these crazy union initiatives, but really there's not. I mean, it's a racket is what it is. Yeah.
Isn't it funny? Because I just flipped the team this article that I was reading in CTV News Saskatoon, and it's about, again, this is the neck and neck. Healthcare is the burning issue leading up to the Saskatchewan election, says poll. All right, let's read. Who's doing the polling? Let's find out together. New polling data available Wednesday shows top priority for Saskatchewan voters in the provincial election is healthcare. A survey of 800 Saskatchewan adults conducted by Janet Brown Opinion Research between September 23rd and October 3rd showed healthcare, inflation, and education are the three leading issues for voters ahead of voting week. In the survey, released Wednesday by CUPE, 46% of respondents mentioned healthcare as one of their concerns, 28% mentioned inflation, and 26% mentioned education. So that's a cute, and then they go on to just preach this as gospel that Saskatchewan voters are, the healthcare is their burning issue. I suppose it is for some. I mean, we're all getting older and we'd like to use the thing we've been paying for all of our lives eventually.
You
But
think? You think?
They never tell
Maybe
you
not wait
the ties.
3 years for.
Yeah, but they never tell you the ties to CUPE between Carla Beck and CUPE.
No, they don't.
No.
They keep that on the down low. Yeah, Mr. Beck is sort of just this vague notion. Everybody kind of knows, but it's not really ever mentioned. And it is really important to understand that it is just theater. It is just theater. And the people of Saskatchewan are I think most concerned about the cost of living crisis that we're all in Canada right now suffering from because of the terrible decisions made in Ottawa. We're talking about we're all concerned about the cost of groceries. We're all wondering how we're going to heat our houses this coming winter. I mean, aside from the carbon tax relief that we'll feel in Saskatchewan, which is most appreciated, people in Saskatchewan have some real affordability issues, just like we do across the nation. And I think those issues on healthcare and education just play right into the hand of the NDP.
And let's get real here. Like when we look at the real data on healthcare, Saskatchewan fares far better than Alberta and spends less as far as wait times goes. I've just pulled up something. And the reason I know this is top of mind, because I always watch this stuff, because Saskatchewan allows this really clever mix of private clinics that are funded publicly. So it's delivered privately and funded publicly. So everybody can just settle down. Nobody's being denied care because they can't pay. But Saskatchewan shortened their wait times. So
because it works. So in Saskatchewan, if you want an MRI or whatever testing we have, if you were a private individual and want to get a private MRI, you can absolutely do that, but you're also going to pay for somebody on the public wait list. So this accelerates everybody's service at a 1-to-1 clip, and we're finding that this really works in Saskatchewan. Sort of a double-sided partnership between public and private healthcare, and especially when doctors are saying that they're underpaid, that the formulas are kind of outdated, that the more time when they spend more time, it costs them more money, so they're less likely to spend it with patients. It's a good solution. It's a good solution to get through those lines faster. Yeah, it's just opening another line.
It's this Fraser Institute research that I was reading says that the pandemic has really done a number on healthcare, but prior to the pandemic, inviting that mix of private delivery halved the wait times. They went from having one of the longest wait times outside of the Atlantic to one of the shortest in under a decade.
Yeah.
And it was by adding that mix.
It works.
And then, it works. You hear from the unions. Sorry, you hear from the unions so much. They say healthcare, it's struggling. let's keep doing the same damn thing. That's their solution. And you guys tried something different and it worked.
Yeah, give us more money, they say. Give us more money and all of these problems will stay the same. And it's like, well, does it? Another thing that Saskatchewan did that was really, really innovative is they gave a lot more power to pharmacists to treat
You did that.
just regular illnesses. We're talking pink eye, we're talking, little I guess injections. Pharmacists do injections in Saskatchewan.
Yep, us too.
But there's a handful of issues that pharmacists can now take care of. And that takes all of those people that would have normally gone to emergency and takes them out of that pipeline. I mean, it's kind of brilliant. It's kind of brilliant. And we should be doing a lot more of that too. If we could get nurse practitioners, RNs and LPNs to be delivering, 40% of the healthcare we need in Saskatchewan. And let's face it, sometimes all you need is a nurse to take a look at you. That would cut things even further. But I know that they're looking at a bunch of initiatives to keep chipping away at those wait times, retain a lot more local doctors, and sort of fix things in healthcare. What's really interesting though is the NDP is going. You'll hear about this tonight. Carla Beck and the NDP have a bunch of plans that they want to bring forth into Saskatchewan's healthcare, and those are all just recycled Sask party plans from like 2 years ago. I swear to God, there is no difference. They just slapped a new name on it and said, we have this great big marvelous plan. And honestly, it's like the worst political policy hijacking I've ever seen in my life is the NDP's rebranding of all of Sask Party's ideas and then claiming that they came up with them themselves.
Yeah, Justin Trudeau's doing that right now with immigration, right? Like he's like, whoa, somebody's got to do something about these immigration targets. So we've got to get a handle on those. It's like, yeah, buddy, those are your immigration targets. And that's a conservative policy that you're talking about. Where have you been? I should tell everybody we're going to start the debate probably in the next 5 minutes. But if you have something to say and you want to support the work that we do here at Rebel News completely willingly, unlike what they make you do with the mainstream media, just reaching into your pocket to give it to CTV, who will tell you the election is neck and neck, might I consider inviting you to watch us over on Rumble if you aren't already. So this is for you, YouTube viewers. If you are on Rumble right now, head on over and park your eyeballs over on Rumble, because Rumble Rebel News is not demonetized. They are not a censorship platform, and they let you speak your mind. They let me speak my mind too. And they will allow you to do something called a Rumble rant. If your Rumble rant is over the $5 US cutoff, I'm hereby obligating myself and my friend Lise to read it and respond to it on air. So make it fun.
Oh, do it. Good, guys, make it good. Like we want to read your Rumble rants. Oh yes,
this
is the goal. Yeah,
but don't let that be the bar for entry, because frequently, if you're clever or insightful and it's under the $5 US, we'll read it on air. Even if it's free, we'll read it on air. For example, there's somebody right now who just sent us one. Mad Duzka. Says the last time the NDP held power in Saskatchewan, they closed a bunch of our rural hospitals and schools. I'll never vote NDP. Did they?
That is like true. In the hundreds, they did. Yes. No. An NDP government is a recipe for disaster for Saskatchewan. We all saw all of our friends in Saskatchewan move to Alberta. Like still my closest girlfriends live in Alberta because they came from Saskatchewan. There was nothing left for anybody else here. So yes, let's not make this mistake, Saskatchewan.
Yeah, there was a joke in the 90s that like Red Deer was the biggest town in Saskatchewan. Because like everybody was here from Saskatchewan. There's another one, Rocky Mountain. It is true. Rocky Mountain Duke says, I support mass deportation. That is deporting all the woke politicians from Alberta and Saskatchewan. Okay, but they're running out of places to go. Because normally I would be like, yeah, just stuff them in Vancouver. Who cares? I'll wait for an earthquake to claim Vancouver and we're fine. But no, Vancouver, BC might go conservative. There's nowhere to put these people anymore. We just have to make sure they never get near the levers of power.
I have an idea. Put them on a departing ice floe, okay? Global warming is a big deal. All of the icebergs are melting, and when they're floating by, we'll just load them full of wokesters and listen, bon voyage. Bon voyage.
Yeah, let my SUV take care of business just by letting her idle. We've got a message really quick too from our friends at 1775coffee.com. Do you enjoy the free speech that Rumble is protecting and fighting for? I believe I just mentioned that. Our show on Rumble is only possible thanks to our viewers supporting Rumble's platform by purchasing Rumble's products. Most of you drink coffee every day. That's why you have to try Rumble's 1775 coffee. It's actually some of the best coffee, and it's the same price as the coffee you buy now, but it's way better and more free. Rumble's 1775 coffee is free from chemicals, yet rich in flavor. This is because their beans are sourced from high-altitude farms in Bolivia, hand-picked, roasted weekly at their facility in Miami, and delivered fresh to your doorstep. And as believers in freedom, buying from Rumble helps fight back against woke corporations like Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts. Join the coffee revolution and brew rebellion with Rumble 1775 coffee. Go to 1775coffee.com, use code STUDIO to get a free month's supply of their cognitive boosting supplement Limitless when you buy 2 bags of coffee. I listened to Trudeau at the Foreign Interference Commission today. My brain needs all the help that it can get. Think about that. It's a crazy deal, and the supplement is worth more than the 2 bags of coffee. Go to 1775coffee.com and try their amazing coffee. Yes, that's it. We've got a couple minutes before the debate starts. Did you catch any of the Foreign Interference Commission today with Justin Trudeau?
I was hanging on and listening to every single word. How is this possible, Canada, that this is our prime minister? Like the fumbling, stumbling, umming and awing that this man does. I mean, he's just an embarrassment. I can't believe that we send him to other nations to represent us. I mean, if Canada's reputation is sinking in international circles, he is the primary reason why. He is the primary reason why. I can't believe it.
I'm glad you mentioned the bumbling and the stumbling, because I do sometimes get ahead of myself and I trip over my words, as people who talk a lot tend to do. But Justin Trudeau was next level today. And the funny part was he was like, let me speak with clarity. And then he like bumbled for 20 straight seconds about nothing. I think this is it here. I, in another life, would have had to edit this, like take like 4 Trudeau bumbling sessions and smash them together. This is one long, it sounded like a diesel engine in the cold, trying to get going, like and then it takes off. If you're from the prairies, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You forgot to plug in the diesel pickup, and then you're like, dang, I got to plow the driveway. That's what Trudeau's brain was doing today.
I put it to you that this is just one instance of a pattern throughout this file in which CSIS doesn't go to the Minister of Public Safety. It goes to your office to seek approval with respect to matters. Is that accurate?
I'm not I can say with clarity that CSIS usually and often does go to its ministers.
I put it to you that this is.
That was one sentence. His brain was full Biden, but Biden is ancient. What's his excuse?
Well, he's so rarely held to account by anybody. He has to try and think of something on the fly. Really, this guy is just living in a confirmation bubble, in a confirmation loop where nobody ever questions him or gives him a hard question or expects a good answer from him. And so this is a man that is fumbling with reality right here. It's great. We should be putting him on the spot way more often.
This lady, I believe Merelda Fiddler-Potter, I forget who she's some sort of professor of Indigenous something or other, if that's right, which leads me to believe that she's probably a pretendian. As so many of those professors tend to be.
She wouldn't be the first one. Bluffy St. Marie.
Bluffy St. Marie. Who's that other one from Saskatchewan who was busted? Oh, I forget her name.
Oh, so do I right now, but I know it.
Super affluent white family. That's why.
Yeah, from the University of Regina. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, this is Merelda Fiddler-Potter, and I'm only joking about her background. She's the assistant professor of Indigenous communication at First Nations University of Canada, and she is telling everybody the ground rules. Scott Moe will follow them, and Carla Beck, I bet, will not, because she just won't. So I think maybe, do we hush up? right now and get down to business.
Now
Olivia?
to our panel of journalists asking the questions. Adam Hunter is CBC Saskatchewan's provincial affairs reporter. Brendan Purdy is an anchor with Global News. Alison Bamford is a national reporter with CTV News. And Murray Mandrick is a columnist for Post Media, which includes the Leader Post and Star Phoenix. Okay, here are the rules. Each leader has 2 minutes to make their opening statement. After that, reporters will ask their questions, and the leaders will have 45 seconds to respond without being interrupted. Then there will be a 3-minute debate on the same topic. To keep things on track, I will interject if necessary and cut people off. At the end, each candidate will have a 2-minute closing statement. So let's get started. We held a random draw to decide who would kick us off tonight. The NDP won the draw. So leader Carla Beck, your 2 minutes starts now.
Good evening, Saskatchewan. The province I grew up in was a place where people looked out for one another. On the farm, we relied on our neighbors, and our neighbors relied on us. This is a province where people can set aside differences to get things done. But Scott Moe and the Sask Party have taken us from leaders to laggards on issue after issue. And Saskatchewan people are looking for change. I hear it from seniors struggling to pay for the basics, like rent and groceries. I hear it from women forced to leave our province just to get basic health care. They all say it's time for change. Now, I've been laying out our plan, a plan to make life more affordable and to get us out of last place in education and health care. A plan to cut the fuel tax and remove the PST from kids' clothing and from groceries. A plan to invest in our kids' classrooms and ensure that every child has the chance at that best education. A plan to hire more doctors and nurses so that you can get the care you need when and where you need it. I see opportunity in every corner of this province. But under Scott Moe and the Sask Party, there's too much opportunity being left on the table and too many Saskatchewan people being left behind. It doesn't have to be this way. This election, you have a choice. You can vote for more of the same. More hours spent waiting in ERs. More overworked doctors and nurses. More people dying, waiting to get the care that they need. Or you can vote for change. I'm Carla Beck. I'm running to be your premier. And this election, I'm asking for your vote. It's time for Saskatchewan to lead again.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. Now let's turn to Saskatchewan Party Leader Scott Moe.
Well, thank you, Meralda, and good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us this evening in our provincial legislature. Tonight, you are going to hear two very different plans. The Saskatchewan Party has a plan for a strong economy and for a bright future. Saskatchewan has came so far the last number of years, and our plan is to build on that record of growth. It's a plan to ensure that that growth continues, creating more good jobs and opportunities for Saskatchewan people and in particular for our children. It's a plan to keep making investments in the things that a growing province needs. More teachers, more doctors, more nurses, new hospitals and new schools, more police officers and recovery centers so that we can keep our communities safe. It's a plan to make life more affordable for students, for seniors, for homeowners, for families, and for everyone. And that is one large difference between the two plans that you will see here this evening. The Saskatchewan Party wants to lower your taxes and put more money back into your pockets so that you can decide how to spend it. The NDP wants to take more of your hard-earned money so that they can spend it. And that's an important difference that you will see here this evening. I'm so proud of our province and all that we have been able to achieve together. We have come so far since the dark days of decline, loss, and closure under the NDP. So I look forward to discussing the Saskatchewan Party's plan for a strong economy and a brighter future. And once again, thank you for joining us this evening.
Thank you, leaders. It's time to go to our panel for the first question tonight, starting with CBC's provincial affairs reporter, Adam Hunter. Adam?
Ms. Beck, we'll start with you. Healthcare has been a major campaign issue. We've seen nurses rally outside of this building early on in the campaign. We've also seen reports of ERs being over capacity and people are struggling to find a family doctor. I'd like to know how your plan for healthcare is better than your opponents.
Let's be clear. Our healthcare system is broken. Scott Moe and the Sask Party broke it. They can't be trusted to fix it. We hear heartbreaking stories every day about people in this province not able to get the care that they need. We see people dying on wait lists before they get the care that they need. We've got a plan. I don't have a magic wand, but we do have a plan that invests in the valuable healthcare workers that we need in this province, retains the ones that we have, a plan that's been built with them, a plan to grow your own, to encourage more people to get into healthcare, a plan to get us out of last place when it comes to healthcare.
Ms. Beck, thank you. Now let's turn to Mr. Moe.
Well, first, I would say the challenges that we're seeing in healthcare across Canada are just that. They're not exclusive to Saskatchewan. They are a Canadian challenge, and they are challenges that require investment. $1.8 billion of investment over the last 4 years, and almost 11% investment in healthcare this last year. Investment to expand our healthcare infrastructure and to look at innovative new ways to deliver healthcare. Urgent care centers come to mind. To expand the number of surgeries that we are doing using all of the tools that are available to us, but most importantly, invest in our people with the most ambitious health human resource plan in the nation of Canada. So I would say thank you to the healthcare workers. This is a party that will provide more doctors, more nurses, more training spaces, more hospitals, but also acknowledge we have more work to do.
Thank you, Mr. Moe.
Mr. Moe,
it's now time for our first open debate of the night. I know you're both eager, and we are eager to hear you both as well. You now have 3 minutes for open debate.
Mr. Moe wants to thank healthcare workers now while he's standing here in this debate. The reality is he didn't even have the respect to talk to nurses who are raising concerns about safe staffing levels, about the level of care and the danger of our overcrowded emergency rooms in this province. Scott Moe and the Sask Party talk about how much they spend. Let's look at results. Scott Moe says he wants to run on his record. Let's look at his record. The longest wait lists for surgery in the entire country. The most people dying on wait lists in this province. Women with lumps in their breast deciding whether they can pay out of pocket and go out of province to get the healthcare they need or risk dying on those longest in Canada wait times. It doesn't have to be this way. There's no magic wand. This is going to be hard work, but we've got a plan to get us out of last place, to work with healthcare workers to turn around those record number of healthcare workers leaving our province. It's a plan to invest in doctors and nurses. Scott Moe's plan has no increases to hire additional doctors and nurses in this province. You deserve better than this.
With all due respect, when it comes to hiring physicians and nurses, about 800 more physicians and nurses alone, never mind the other healthcare professionals that are working in our healthcare system today. 1,800 nurses have been hired in the last 18 months and are working and offering services in a Saskatchewan facility today. Our record the last 4 years is $1.8 billion. The NDP platform moving forward is $1.1 billion, which is actually a cut to what the record of the Saskatchewan Party has been the last 4 years. In that $1.1 billion, there's $685 million that actually isn't in their costing platform. And so when the NDP candidate arrives on your doorstep, I would ask them, why are they cutting healthcare in the province of Saskatchewan? Why are they not investing in a record number of surgeries like we did this last year? The surgical wait time in Saskatchewan is actually lower than it was in 2007, despite 250,000 additional people living here today. That being said, there is more work to do. There is more work to do on healthcare, on education, and so many files and services and that are important to Saskatchewan people. And this is a party that is running on the record that we have to ensure that we are ready to do that work on your behalf.
Let's look at your record. You're talking about how many you've hired. You're not talking about the fact that 4,000 healthcare workers in this province left last year alone. People are dying on
There's
our,
over
on our wait
40,000
list.
people working in the
cannot
healthcare
get the
system.
care that
We're
they
up
need.
800.
People cannot get ambulances to arrive in time. There's a woman in Saskatoon, a woman named Sharon, who had to wait for over an hour with symptoms of a heart attack because there was no ambulance. They were stuck in overcrowded emergency rooms and offload delays. You deserve better than this.
Time is up for that debate. Let's go back to Adam for another question.
Mr. Moe, this is for you to start off. The costs of everything seems to be going up, from gas to groceries to rent. What are you proposing to do to deal with affordability concerns in the first year of your mandate?
Well, I would say first and foremost, today, Saskatchewan is the most affordable place in Canada to live. And we have the lowest inflation rate, largely because we removed the carbon tax from the way that we heat our homes in this province. That low inflation rate is helping, but we do understand that Canadian families and Saskatchewan families are feeling the cost of living pressures that we are seeing across this nation. When you look at the platform that we had brought forward, to increase the graduate retention program by 20%. It's a platform, and the income tax reductions that will impact everyone in the province of Saskatchewan. It is a platform that most certainly is increasing benefits and lowering taxes for students, for seniors, for homeowners, for families, and for everyone that lives in this province, and will act on it quickly if we are elected your government.
Thank you, Mr. Moe. Let's go to Ms. Beck. You have 45 seconds.
This is one of the number one issues we hear on the doorstep, and I hear it from people all the time. Losing sleep, worrying about how they're going to pay their bills. I hear from parents who are worried that they're not going to be able to put their kids in dance or in hockey this fall because of the cost of living in this province. The reality is Scott Moe has done nothing before tonight to offer any affordability relief. In fact, he made things worse. He raised taxes 31 times in 1 year. We've heard you. We've got a plan to put more money in your pocket, and we're going to do it by Christmas. Cutting the fuel tax on day one, removing the PST from kids' clothing and groceries. We've got a plan to give families a break on the cost of living.
Thank you. That is it for the individual answers. I'll just repeat the question before we go into our 3-minute open debate. The cost of almost everything is going up, from gas to groceries to rent. What are you going to do to address affordability concerns in the first year of your mandate? And let's add some specifics for our voters tonight.
Scott Moe is standing here in this debate tonight, telling you he's going to make your life more affordable. 4 years ago, he stood in this same debate. He promised to reduce your power bills by 10%, and then he raised them 3 times. He promised no new taxes, and he raised them 31 times in 1 year. He also promised to balance the budget, something he hasn't been great at either. We've got a plan. We've heard you. We understand how important this is to families to have some money in their pocket right away. That's why we're going to cut the fuel tax, remove the PST that Scott Moe put on kids' clothes and groceries. We've got a plan to control rent in this province to ensure that we don't see what we see right now in this province, which is the highest year-over-year rent increase in the country. We've got a plan to offer a nutrition program for kids in schools. Our plan will deliver 2 times the relief to Saskatchewan families next year compared to Scott Moe's plan.
The last 2 budgets in the province of Saskatchewan are balanced by the provincial auditor's statement, not by anyone else, but the provincial auditor's statement says the last 2 budgets in this province were balanced. We are reducing the cost of living for Saskatchewan people, or have been as a government, by removing the carbon tax off of the fuel that you heat your home with. We have $2 billion in each and every budget. That is leading to Saskatchewan being the most affordable place in Canada to live today, with the lowest inflationary rate due to cutting that carbon tax from your home heating fuel. Add to that the income tax savings over the next 4 years, going to save $3,400. Add to that the expanded graduate retention program. Add to that increasing the low income tax credit. Saskatchewan will remain the lowest, the most affordable place in Canada to live. That is the goal of the Saskatchewan Party. There are measures that are in place today, and there's measures that will be in place should we form government on October the 28th. Unlike the NDP party that has put forward a platform that simply had grabbed $800 million out of thin air. No one can explain where it came. Not the
Well, Ron Stiles
economist
had a
on the
pretty easy
evening
time
news is
explaining
not
it,
able to
Mr.
explain
Mo.
where that $800 million come from. And so when the NDP candidate comes to your door to ask for your support, ask them where the $800 million fictional dollars that they grab from thin air are in their budget, because I would say
Mr. Mo,
at the end of the
it's fully
day,
costed,
they don't
and you
have
know
any
well.
intention on
You
balancing
know
the budget.
that.
They are going to
I'll
raise
remind
taxes,
you.
and that means that you're going to balance the budget for them.
I'll remind you, if you can't hear each other, the Saskatchewan voters can't hear you. Just briefly add your points that you want to sort of finish up with. Nice and brief.
Mr. Mo is standing hand over heart promising this time he's not going to make your life more expensive. That's what he promised last time. We have a fully costed plan that's going to deliver relief faster, double the amount next year for families in this province.
Mr. Mo.
I would say the plan that the Saskatchewan Party puts forward is the largest reduction in income tax since 2008, which was the last time we removed 112,000 people off the income tax roll. You add to that 54,000 additional people being removed off the income tax, Saskatchewan will remain the most affordable place to live in Canada. That's the goal of the Saskatchewan Party, and it continues to be the goal of the Saskatchewan Party.
Thank you. Time's up for that debate. Let's turn now to CTV national reporter Allison Bamford for the next question. Allison.
Thanks, Merelda. Ms. Beck, over the last year, we've heard repeated concerns about class size and complexity, overcrowding, the pronoun policy, and now we're seeing increasing violence in schools. How are you going to create a safe learning environment for students in the public school system?
As a mom, there was nothing more that I wanted for my kids than for them to receive the best education possible. And that's what I want for all kids in this province. But that is not happening under Scott Moe and the Sask Party. We've seen 15,000 additional students in our schools, but only one teacher. Scott Moe has put us in last place in education. And after 17 years, they've shown us time and time again how little they value public education. It's time for change. We've got a plan to invest $2 billion into our kids' classrooms, to hire more teachers, more education workers. We've got a plan to get us out of last place and get our kids the education that they deserve.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. Mr. Moe, your time starts now.
Thank you, Merelda. Again, with 250,000 additional people living in the province, they have brought their children and they are in our schools. And that's why you have seen a Saskatchewan Party since 2007 increase our education budget by 53%. That includes 9% this past year, really an unprecedented increase, while our student population has increased about 18%. We're addressing classroom size by building new schools, 28 in progress as we speak, addressing and talking to frontline teachers about bringing innovation to the classroom to address classroom complexity. Per capita today, Saskatchewan people are investing more in education than anywhere else in Canada. And that is allowing us to build more classrooms, more schools, more teachers, more parental involvement in our schools, and more funding for the education sector.
Thank you. Now let's start our 3-minute open debate on the same topic.
Well, Scott Moe just told us that he thinks that classroom size has to deal with the physical size of the classroom. It has to do with the number of teachers we have teaching in the system. And the reality is, again, 15,000 additional students, one additional teacher. We have fewer psychologists. We have fewer supports for kids that desperately need it. And that means that right now in this province, there are parents who are being called midday in their child's school day to come get their children because they don't have the supports that they need to keep that child safely in school. Our plan is to invest in our healthcare system, or into our education system. It's a plan to undo the damage done by a decade of underfunding by Scott Moe and the Sask Party.
The first thing I would say is, with respect to the NDP plan, is in their costing document, they had committed $2 billion to the education sector, and in their costing document had $200 million plus $200 million in year 2, $200 million in year 3, $200 million in year 4. 200 million times 4 does not equal $2 billion.
But it's a cruel
It just
counting.
certainly doesn't.
Mr. Moe, it's adding an
the
additional
Saskatchewan
$200
Party, as I
million
said,
every
has increased its last budget 9%. is the funding to the school divisions, who then turn around and hire the teachers in our classrooms. Most certainly, up 53% since we have had the honor of forming government, while the student population is up 18%. Thankfully, people are moving to Saskatchewan and their children are going to school in Saskatchewan. But what I would say with respect to the commitment that this government has to education is that, yes, we are going to build new classrooms for those additional students, and we are going to continue to increase funding in our education sector to ensure that we have the teachers and the EAs and the supports for those students and for their families wherever they are attending their K-12 education. This is unlike the NDP record, who, when they had the opportunity, closed a school a month the entire 16 years that they governed.
Kids in grade 12 today have only known cuts and underfunding because of your underfunding of the education system. It's ridiculous. You cannot drive
9%.
where we need to go if you keep looking in the rearview mirror, Mr. Moe. Now, our plan is fully costed, and let me tell you, it's accrual. It's $200 million the first year, then add $200 million the next year, and so on and so on. It's $2 billion. It's fully accounted for. It's no wonder you can't balance a budget, and it's no wonder that kids in our province are not getting the education that they need. We know how important this is.
It's short, $1.2 billion. That's the question for the NDP Canada.
You can keep saying that, Mr. Moe, but it's not true. The reality is your record is underfunding our kids' classrooms. It's robbing kids in this province of the ability to get the education that they need, that we need them to have.
Our record is 100 new schools and a 9% increase.
Time's up, leaders. Let's go back to CTV's Alison Bamford for her next question.
Mr. Moe, Saskatchewan's economy relies on our wealth of natural resources. How would your government ensure that economic growth is shared with all Saskatchewan residents, including rural and remote communities and Indigenous people?
Well, I think you're seeing that happen today, and I would point most recently to a co-investment by Indigenous communities and Indigenous people with a forestry company on an over $500 million investment in the Prince Albert area in an OSB plant right there. I would point to Chief Bobby Cameron's comments when we partnered with SIGA on bringing our gaming framework online, as he called it. This is economic reconciliation in action. I would point to the potash industry, the mining industry more generally, and the partnerships that they have and the procurement targets that they have on ensuring that as Saskatchewan economy grows, and it has, tripled, as a matter of fact, in the last 15 years, that it is there to benefit everyone across the province, and that is the case today.
Thank you, Mr. Moe. Ms. Beck, the same question.
Saskatchewan people are worried about the economy. And contrary to what Mr. Moe just said, it is not benefiting all areas, all sectors of the province. We've seen decline in 7 sectors of the economy under Scott Moe and the Sask Party. We've seen 40,000 jobs lost in rural Saskatchewan, 1,000 businesses outside of Regina and Saskatoon. We've got a plan to attract new investment and create good jobs, to revitalize downtowns and main streets. Rebates on the PST, the construction labor that Scott Moe stuck the PST on, and attracting value-added jobs here to the province. We need an all-of-the-above approach that ensures growth in all sectors, in all areas of Saskatchewan.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. Now let's set the clock for 3 minutes and start the open debate. Again, a reminder that basically, what is your plan that's going to benefit everyone, not just those in major centers or southern Saskatchewan?
So our plan is our plan for growth, of which we are on our second iteration and a view of what our province looks like in the year 2030. And it is working, as today what we see is we have the second lowest unemployment rate in Canada. 17,000 jobs have been created just this past year. We have the highest rate of growth for private sector investment into any province across the nation of Canada. Inflation is at an all-time low due to us rejecting the Trudeau NDP carbon tax on how we heat our homes in this province. And you are going to see more of the same in the future. a provincial government. Should we form government on October the 28th, you will see a provincial government that will attract that investment from abroad and from within Canada, ensure that that private sector investment is creating jobs in the areas where we have strengths, the mining sector, the oil and gas sector, the forestry sector, all sectors that were not even mentioned, didn't even garner a mention in the NDP platform. Another question for your NDP candidate when they come to your door, but sectors that are employing tens of thousands of people across this province. We're seeing that investment land here today. We're seeing those jobs created today, and we're seeing all communities be a part of the great opportunity that Saskatchewan is facing.
I'll agree with Mr. Moe on this. There is opportunity in every corner of this province, but too much of that opportunity is being left on the table, and too many Saskatchewan people, too many communities are being left behind. Mr. Moe says he wants to run on his record. Let's talk about his real record. The worst economic growth in Canada. Second worst when it comes to creating full-time jobs. Second worst in economic growth. 5 years with 1.1% increase to the GDP in this province. Jobs lost, whole sectors of the economy in decline. That has been Scott Moe's record. Now, our plan is to attract investment in all sectors, in all corners of this province, to get our downtowns, our main streets thriving again, to increase small businesses, offering startup loans, and not increasing, not doubling the small business tax rate as Scott Moe until recently had proposed. We need an all-of-the-above approach to ensure that all sectors in this economy are thriving, and the benefits, the amazing opportunity is available to all people in this province, not just a select few. That has been Scott Moe's record.
17,000 people getting a job this past year are not a select few. That's creating a job every 30 minutes. In fact, by the time we're done our debate tonight, there will be 2 jobs created in this province. I would say under the NDP, there was also a job created every 30 minutes, but the challenge was it was in Alberta and our children had to move there to get that job. Things have changed. Saskatchewan now is creating jobs right here by attracting that investment. That is going to continue should we have the honor of forming government on October the 28th.
It's time now to turn to Murray Mandrick, political columnist for the Leader Post and Star Phoenix. Murray.
Thanks. Ms. Beck, rural Saskatchewan is facing this age-old problem of shrinking communities and fewer farms. How can government address this?
Well, this is an issue that we see right across the country. But even in rural communities today, and I mean this, I see economic opportunity, I see opportunity everywhere. People, when they come, my dad's an outfitter, and when people come to our small town, they're amazed. One of his hunters bought the house next door. They want to see the kind of community that is present in rural communities right across this province. But in too many of those rural communities, the opportunity isn't available there now, and the services that people need are simply not available. What we see in rural communities
Thank you, Ms. Beck.
needs to
That
be
is your
improved.
time. Mr. Moe, same question.
We are so fortunate in this province with the rural-urban synergy that we have. Many of our natural resources are located in rural areas of the province. Our ag land, our mining products, our oil and gas. The people that are bringing value to those natural resources, they often live in our villages, towns, and cities, in the urban parts of Saskatchewan. And here comes the synergy where those people add value to those products that are in the rural areas of our province. And so as we move forward and see the opportunities in mining investment, people living in rural communities that are working in the mining industry, ag value added investment, people living in rural Saskatchewan that are adding value to our agri-food products. We are seeing successes like the export values going from 17 billion under the NDP to 50 billion today. That's wealth in our communities.
Thank you, Mr. Moe. That's it for individual answers. We now have 3 minutes for open debate.
Again, I'll agree with Mr. Moe that there is opportunity in every corner of this province, but the reality is that there are whole regions of this province that are being left behind.
One of them is the federal government.
That we are seeing job losses,
supports.
business loss. Mr. Moe, that's not true.
It is true.
Well, it's absolutely
We saw
not
Jagmeet
true.
Singh come out a few weeks ago, say he was not going to
It's
support Justin
absolutely
Trudeau.
not
and
true.
2 weeks, the first
Mr. Moe,
two,
people
less
in
than 2
this
weeks,
province right now want to know about jobs. They want to know about
remind you to get
healthcare.
back
They
on
want
track
to
in
know
the
about
debate.
education. Mr. Moe he says he wants to run on his record, but we see him do everything but. He wants to run away from it. He wants to point to 20 years ago. He wants to point to everything else but his own record. It's time you took responsibility for your record, Mr. Moe.
Our
So
record is
when it
100
comes
schools.
when it comes to opportunity in this province, we've seen small business losses.
Oh, he's running.
What we have a
circles
plan
around
to
her.
do
She's got
is
an opportunity
revitalize
every week.
those main streets in small town Saskatchewan to ensure that there are more small businesses. Startup loans, $40,000. That is something that will go a long way to create those jobs that are needed. But you know what else is needed in those communities? Services. Too many times in this province, kids in rural Saskatchewan don't have access to the services that are needed. Too many times, people drive up to their emergency room and see a piece of paper on the door telling them that they need to get in their car and drive down the highway to try to find services at the next town. This is not safe, and it is not working to attract the investment to small towns that we need in our province right now.
Small businesses, most certainly, need support, of which both parties have put forward, and they need less taxes and less regulation, primarily, that is coming from a federal government of which the NDP supported and have propped up for the last number
Mr.
of
Moe.
years. The NDP, very recently, Jagmeet Singh said, we're not going to support Justin Trudeau anymore. That lasted 2 weeks, of which at that time he had an opportunity to go into the House of Commons and to not support Justin Trudeau, to
Mr.
not
Moe,
support a carbon tax, which would save
we're
small
in a
businesses
provincial
across
debate
Canada
right now.
so very much, but he
People-
chose not to. He supported
at
Justin
home
Trudeau again, and he
are
supported the carbon
waiting
tax, and he's
for
costing
healthcare. Their
Canadians,
kids aren't
including
getting
those
the
that live in
supports they need.
Saskatchewan, money.
And this is where Mr. Moe focuses his time. I've been very clear when it comes to any federal leader. Doesn't matter the political stripe. If there are programs that are put forward that stand to benefit people in this province, I will be at that table making sure we get the best deal possible for people in this province.
What did you say to Jagmeet Singh?
And if there are instances where they're making policy decisions that hurt people in this province, hurt the economy, you bet, regardless of political stripe, I will be at that table standing up for Saskatchewan. My focus is on the people of this province and getting the services that they need, getting the supports, getting the economy going in all sectors.
The table you
Something
went
that
to
is
was
not
the
happening
campaign
under Scott
plan
Moe
for
and the
Justin
Sask Party
Trudeau
right
and
now.
Jagmeet
Thank
Singh.
you, leaders. That's it for that open debate. Let's go back to Murray for another question.
Thanks, brother. Mr. Moe, the NDP and the Sask Party have very different ideas about how to spend our money when it comes to policing and public safety. The Sask Party wants to have a marshal service. The NDP wants to hire more RCMP officers. Can you tell us how your plan is better?
Yeah, most certainly. Safer communities and neighborhoods are a focus of this, the Saskatchewan Party, and we're committed to ensuring that a family would be able to go for a walk in the park after supper, for example, and feel safe in their neighborhood. That's what we are seeing across Canada when it comes to higher crime rates, higher rates of vandalism, higher rates of homelessness. The root cause of all of this is addictions and the drugs that are available in our community and in our nation, and those drugs are nothing short of poison today. That's why you've seen a government focus on recovery opportunities, building 500 intensive recovery beds, also adding 500 police officers, including RCMP officers, municipal officers, and yes, the Saskatchewan Marshal Service to keep your community safe wherever you live in this province.
Thank you, Mr. Moe. Ms. Beck, your 45 seconds starts now.
Right now, Mr. Moe's record is that people in this province, too many of them, don't feel safe in their own homes, in their own communities. People should feel safe to be downtown, but too often they don't. Now, Scott Moe and the Sask Party, they like to talk tough about crime, but their record speaks for itself. The highest rate of violent crime, domestic violence in the entire country. It's no wonder. Mr. Moe can't even control the crime in his own team. One of his MLAs charged in a human trafficking sting. Another charged with assault and choking. We've got a plan to get tough on crime and tough on the causes of crime, to put 200 additional officers on the ground now and address the issues that create crime in the first place.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. It's time for the open debate on this question. 3 minutes starts now.
Tough on crime doesn't work. That's a quote from your NDP candidate
one of the
on
biggest
Twitter. Tough on
issues.
crime doesn't work. That's the NDP
Tough on crime,
stance,
tough on the causes of crime. That's a quote from
which
the
is
leader
why
of the
we're
NDP,
building
Mr. Moe.
building and staffing 500 recovery spaces across this province. This is a focus on recovery and offering recovery, access to that recovery through urgent care centers, through our complex needs shelters, ensuring that people that have unfortunately succumbed to a life of addictions have an opportunity to find a recovery space, and we're building that capacity today. This is very, very different because the NDP is a party that has shown in this nation that they will actually look at making drugs easier to get and recovery harder to get. Well, that's not what the Saskatchewan Party is focused on. The Saskatchewan Party is focused on making recovery easier to get, and making drugs harder to get. And that's why since 2011, we have committed to over 500 police officers, 192 police officers since 2011, 180 committed to recently, 100 municipal officers committed to recently, and 70 provincial marshals to keep your community safe and to get the drugs out of the hands of the drug dealers and to get the drug dealers out of our communities. We are committed to recovery, and we are committed to enforcing the laws that we have in our communities, and we're committed to strengthening those laws.
I'm going to interject here. A key part of your platforms that are very, very different is the Marshal Service versus RCMP. Can you each briefly elaborate on those two very different platforms that I think voters want to hear about?
And Mr. Moe is acting like he's just heard of the mental health and addictions crisis in our province. An issue that grew under his watch. People don't feel safe in their communities today. They haven't for a long time. Double the rate of violent crime when compared to the rest of the country. Scott Moe's plan in 2022 was to create a brand new police force, a Marshal Service, that would deliver boots on the ground in 2026. A plan that has already cost people in this province $14 million, and we don't see a single boot on the ground. This is a concern to frontline police officers, those in the RCMP, municipal police forces. This is a concern that had almost 100 municipal governments sign a letter asking for Mr. Moe to shelve this plan or to look at it again. Now, Mr. Moe, when faced with this reality, does what he always does. He took a shot at frontline RCMP officers in this province. We believe in our frontline police officers, our municipal forces. We think they need resources today. That's why we've got a plan to invest that money, half of it into more police officers and half of it to address the root issues, the issues that are causing crime in the first place, mental health and addictions concerns. Mr. Moe's plan to make a plan isn't working.
I'm going to interject here, Mr. Moe, briefly, your state on this.
500 recovery spaces for those that have unfortunately succumbed to a life with addictions and making those available. 500 police officers, we believe it's an all of the above approach, over 300 RCMP officers, over 100 municipal officers, and 70 provincial marshals to support our municipal police forces and to support our RCMP officers. The NDP will cut the number of police officers and offer to buy you a doorbell camera, which is not going to help.
That's all the time we have for that debate. Our last member of the panel tonight is Global News anchor Brendan Purdy. Brendan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Merelda. Ms. Beck, since the pandemic, addictions have impacted many different avenues throughout our province, whether it's overdose numbers, homelessness, mental health services, and even the overcrowding of our emergency rooms. My question to you tonight, how does your platform address the concerns of Saskatchewan's most vulnerable people?
We have seen a record number of overdose deaths in this province year over year. And this isn't a new problem. What we haven't seen is action by Scott Moe and the Sask Party to actually deal with the root causes of crime, actually deal with keeping people safe and alive so that they can access the help that they need. We've seen cuts to healthcare. We've seen cuts to education and counselors available there. We've seen cuts to service after service that help people recover from addictions early, not when it gets to the point that they're on the street, when they are losing their lives. We need to invest in the root causes of addictions, something that we haven't seen Scott Moe and the Sask Party do.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. Mr. Moe.
I would like to speak to something that's already in place. 500 police officers, yes, to make our community safer and our downtown safer. 500 recovery beds. Part of that is capacity, which is the 500 beds. But part of it is access to those beds, whether it be through urgent care centers or through our complex needs shelters, which today have taken 400 people off the streets before they harm themselves or someone else. And I would hope that all Saskatchewan people can resonate with this fact. For 95% of those folks that have been taken off the street because they may be in a state where they're going to harm themselves or potentially harm someone else, 95% have self-referred to some type of addiction services. It is the government's job to provide an opportunity for everyone that may be living a life with addictions. Recovery is the focus of the Saskatchewan Party, and 95% self-referral rate is a positive step forward.
Thank you, Mr. Moe. Let's turn now to 3 minutes of open debate.
I'm not sure that Mr. Moe understands when people self-refer, when they look for help, what happens in our province too often. People are told there's no help for you. Phone back again tomorrow. Phone back again tomorrow. I was just talking with parents who had lost a loved one to overdose. And they said, you know how hard it is when you're in the throes of an addiction to be told time and time again you need to wait. Phone back again tomorrow. This is the reason we see record numbers of overdose deaths in this province. What parents like those have told me they need is supports, early supports for their kids, for their loved ones who are dying. What they don't need is empty, divisive rhetoric like we see from Scott Moe and the Sask parties.
I agree supports need to be necessary, and I don't think committing to the capacity of 500 intensive recovery beds is in any way rhetoric. I believe that is a service and a needed service for, unfortunately, our family and friends that may have succumbed to addictions. This is what a government needs to provide, is not only the capacity.
Simple solutions aren't going to work. You need to engage all of those parents, those communities, those who have lived a life of addictions to understand what's needed to turn this around. We are losing young people at a rate that has actually decreased our life expectancy in this province. This is not a simple one-size-fits-all solution. We need to keep people in this province alive so they can access care. We need to prevent them from getting into care, into a life of addictions in the first place, something that is very hard to do when we see cut after cut to our healthcare system, to the supports needed in schools, cuts to mental health and addictions. This is a problem that requires all hands on deck. It requires being creative with solutions for sure, but it doesn't need more empty, divisive rhetoric. That's not going to help. That's not going to keep people alive in our communities.
Again, I would say 500 intensive recovery beds, committing to building that, over 200 built today, is not in any way rhetoric. That is a commitment that this party has to the people of Saskatchewan, and providing access to those recovery beds for those that need it. And all too often with the poison and the drugs that we see on our street today, it's not a community away. It's impacting our community, our friends and our family, and we owe it to provide them a pathway to a recovery and to a better life. We also need to ensure that the access points are there. And I explained the access point of an over 95% self-referral rate of people that are being brought into a complex needs shelter, being brought off the street by a police officer because they may harm themselves or someone else, are referring for addictions. They're reaching out for help. And we are going to, should we form government on October the 28th, ensure that we can provide those 500 intensive recovery beds across this province, partnering with Indigenous communities to do so.
That is the end of that debate. Now, with our last question tonight, let's go back to Global's Brendan Purdy.
Thanks. Mr. Moe, you both brand the other as being fiscally irresponsible. My final question of this evening is simple. How can the people of Saskatchewan afford either of your plans without falling further into debt?
Well, as I said, the last two budgets by the provincial auditor were balanced in this province, and we have put forward a fully costed plan like we do each and every election to balance the budget, in this case by 2027. What I would say with respect to the opposition's plan is they have a $3 billion gaping hole in the platform that they had put forward. It's missing $800 million of revenue. It's missing $1.2 million in their education commitment, $685 million in their health commitment. That is not the Saskatchewan Party's record. That is the NDP's record, a record of decline, loss, and closure that is going to bring us back to increased taxes. And I would say this, the NDP don't have a plan for it to pay for it because they don't intend to. You will.
Thank you. Ms. Beck, your turn to respond.
How do I know that we can pay for it? Let's talk about records here. Again, last time Mr. Moe was on this stage, he promised that he was going to make life more affordable, he was going to lower power bills, and he was going to balance the budget. Mr. Moe has added more debt to the people of Saskatchewan than any other premier in the history of Saskatchewan. He's done it in a record 6 years. Our plan is fully costed. It's going to take us 4 years to get there, but we're going to balance the budget at the end of 4 years. Because the reality is we can't afford not to make these investments in healthcare and education. Our plan, again, fully costed and supported by Ron Stiles, someone who served as DM Finance in this province, served a number of premiers in this province.
Thank you
Our
so
record
much, Ms.
versus
Beck.
his.
You both brand the other as being fiscally irresponsible. So how can Saskatchewan people afford either of your plans without going further into debt? 3 minutes on this final debate starts now.
The last two budgets were balanced.
Mr. Moe, it took an invasion, Russian invasion of Ukraine to balance.
Well, in that budget year, we paid $2 billion down in debt.
It took that. This year, Mr. Moe has overspent.
That was an industry that you didn't mention in your platform.
Mr. Moe has overspent his last budget already by $2 billion. How are we going to do it? We're going to focus on the things that matter most to Saskatchewan people. We are not going to see overruns and mismanagement of major projects like the AIM system, something that's going to cost people in this province 3 times its original cost, still doesn't work, and has our hospitals in even worse condition than when it was put in. We understand the need to grow the economy in all sectors. As I said, there's opportunity everywhere in this province, but too much is being left on the table by Scott Moe and the Sask Party. We've got a plan to ensure that we're getting best value when we're making investments in infrastructure in this province, that we are giving full value to Saskatchewan workers and Saskatchewan companies. We know what is most important to the people of this province. I am very proud to be a Saskatchewan New Democrat. I'm very proud of our record when it comes to balancing budgets, when it comes to delivering services for people in this province. Mr. Moe has a different view. Mr. Moe thinks nothing of sending his ministers on sightseeing tours of Paris, for example. His finance minister thought nothing because she was tired of spending $3,000 for what should have been a 4-hour car ride. This is about priorities. This is about growing the economy. This is about investing in the things that Saskatchewan people rely on. That's not been Mr. Moe's record, and he's got the looming record deficit and debt in this province to prove it.
The last two budgets were balanced. The platform that the Saskatchewan Party has put forward has tax cuts for everyone in the province versus a temporary gas tax rebate, which will be less and will exclude people that don't drive in this province. We have a permanent tax cut. Theirs is a temporary tax gift. Our plan is fully costed. Their plan not only has an $800 million revenue hole in it, in which a U of S economist cannot find where those dollars would come from, but a $3 billion expense hole as well. The Saskatchewan Party will work to leave more money in your pocket. We'll leave more money in your pocket by reducing your taxes. And 3/4 of the platform that we have put forward is leaving more money in your pocket so that you can spend it. The NDP is going to take that money from you so that they can spend it. That's the significant difference that you will see here this evening.
31 tax increases in one budget. That is Mr. Moe's record. And he left a huge hole when it comes to our kids' education and the healthcare that people in this province need. It's about priorities and investing and the things most important to Saskatchewan.
Thank you both. It's now time to wrap things up with closing statements from each leader. Let's start with the NDP's Carla Beck. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Meralda. Thank you to the panelists. And thank you to everyone who's watching and listening at home tonight. I'd also like to thank Mr. Moe for his service. I'd also like to thank all of the people over the last number of months who found the courage to come forward with their stories. Stories that weren't always easy to hear. There were stories of pain, stories of frustration, stories of a government that has simply allowed Saskatchewan people to go without the care that they need. People are fed up. They're saying enough is enough. And they're saying it's time for change. This election, you have a choice. I think this debate made that choice very clear. You have a tired and out-of-touch government that plans to see further cuts to education and healthcare. A government that time and time again tells you that everything is just fine, but you know better. And Saskatchewan, you deserve better. We've presented our vision to get Saskatchewan out of last place. Together, we can fix healthcare. Together, we can make life more affordable for you and your family. And together, we can build a strong economy for everyone. This isn't about Team Orange versus Team Green. This is about Team Saskatchewan. And it's time for change. This election, I'm asking for your vote to fix healthcare and to make life more affordable. Together, we can deliver that change, and we can build that brighter future for everyone who calls this beautiful province home.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. For the final statement of the night, we go to Saskatchewan Party Leader Scott Moe.
Well, thank you very much, Meralda, and thank you to the panel, and thank you to all that have joined us at our provincial legislature this evening. Tonight, you heard two very different plans for our province of Saskatchewan. The Saskatchewan Party plan for a strong economy and a very bright future, and the NDP plan that will mean higher taxes for you, and it will mean decline, loss, and closure for our province, just like the last time the NDP formed government. Our plan will make life more affordable for students, for seniors, for homeowners, for families, and for everyone that lives here by reducing your taxes, leaving more money in your pockets for you to spend. The NDP plan is going to take your money so that they can spend it. Our plan will keep our economy growing, more jobs, more opportunities, more investments, and more export opportunities. All of these things make our Saskatchewan community stronger. The NDP plan will simply take us back to a time of decline, loss, and closures, losing people, jobs, and opportunities to other provinces, closing schools and hospitals, and raising your taxes, just like the last time they were in government. So you have an important choice to make on October the 28th. Saskatchewan is a great province, and we have come so far together in the last few years. There is more work to be done for sure, and the Saskatchewan Party has a plan to get that work done. On Election Day, I hope you will vote for a strong economy and a bright future with the Saskatchewan Party. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moe. Election Day is October 28th. Advance voting starts next Tuesday. You can also vote by mail. Just go to elections.sk.ca and register by Saturday. That is all the time we have for the 2024 Saskatchewan Leaders Debate. To the leaders, thank you for enthusiastically debating your ideas tonight. I truly believe the voters of Saskatchewan appreciate this kind of respectful debate here in the legislature. Thanks to our panelists from our media consortium, CBC, Global, and CTV, and for asking some really important questions tonight. And a big shout out to everyone behind the scenes who made this debate possible. Thank you. I'm Merelda Fiddler-Potter. For all of us at the Broadcast Consortium, thank you for watching, and good night.
Well, I'll give you my first impressions of what I saw there. Scott Moe was your big uncle with all the solutions and came with all the numbers. And I'm not sure what Carla Beck actually brought to the table. I actually really enjoyed the moderator. I feel bad for making fun of her because I thought she was great. She didn't interrupt anybody. I think the leaders sort of kept themselves on track. Carla Beck was doing a fair bit of interrupting though. And I really, as an Albertan,
That's not true. That's not true.
That's not true. That's not true. I actually liked seeing it in the I liked I liked seeing it in the legislature. I thought that was beautiful. You don't often see that. We should do more of that. I'll turn it over to you. This is your province. What did you think?
Well, I think that Scott Moe won by a country mile, despite Carla Beck's efforts to sort of relegate herself into Kamala Harris territory with, in my small town, how Kamala Harris says, I grew up in a middle class family. That's what Carla Beck was trying real hard to do.
Upscale Montreal. Yeah.
Exactly that. No, she tried real hard at a bunch of like little personal stories that I thought was kind of odd. My dad is an outfitter, and a guy came and bought the house next door from him, and then he was really unhappy with where he moved because it doesn't have all the big city services. Right. Because it's a small town. So you got to expect that when you move into a small town. The amount of times that she said, that's not true, and just snarked at him was wildly annoying. That was wildly annoying. And she showed herself to be mostly just disrespectful. I love that he went hard on her budget and said, like, it comes up short. Listen, where is all this money? She's going to give $2 million to healthcare, or $2 billion to healthcare. She's going to hire, 8 billion more teachers. She's going to do all of these things, and yet cut taxes, cut fuel taxes, cut PST. Where is all of this money going to come from? Scott Moe for the win for this one. I'm just calling it for him. Scott Moe for the win. He came off as more polished and poised than I thought he would. Yeah, I thought it was a great performance by Scott Moe.
Yeah, Scott Moe normally leans into his like regular dad folksiness, and he was like your uncle, the businessman, today, and I really liked that. I like both Scott Moes, of course. But when she was going to come across, like he knew she didn't have the numbers to back up the things that she was saying in her platform, and so he came with the numbers. Every bit of this debate, there was not a point at which he didn't have a number to just like pull out and lay down on the table. For example, when they were talking about public safety, which is a huge issue, he of course linked it back to the NDP support of Justin Trudeau's radical drug policy. I think, what did he say? The NDP want to make drugs easier to get and recovery harder to get. And he said that he is putting 500 cops on the street, including Saskatchewan marshals.
Yes, including the Saskatchewan Marshal Service, which is absolutely critical right now. Saskatchewan has had a couple of really terrible mass casualty events where the bad guys got away for 3 or more days while the RCMP got its pants on before they caught the bad guys. And then the bad guys ended up overdosing in RCMP custody, and we never did get answers. And so we do need an answer, just like Alberta has with your sheriffs and your municipal police forces. We do need something to augment the RCMP, just because, listen, the RCMP is ran through Ottawa, and we know how effective and efficient those guys are. So yeah, I really liked what they were talking about pertaining to recovery, a recovery-based healthcare plan for addictions. About a year ago, Saskatchewan did away with sort of the safe supply, safe supply experiment that we all sort of went on. They said, we are not going to supply either the drugs or the paraphernalia or any of the services that go along with that. We're going 100% to recovery-based, recovery system. Yep, added 500 beds, and this has done nothing but good for the people of Saskatchewan, who watched some of their family members and loved ones fall down this terrible rabbit hole of addiction after Justin Trudeau made it so easy to become drug addicts, and really gave people reason, because we know that addiction comes from many times a coping mechanism. When people just cannot cope, they use it as a coping mechanism, and this is getting people back on the right track, and it's done nothing but good for the people and families of Saskatchewan.
Yeah, here in Alberta, we get to test ourselves against the catastrophe of the BC drug policy. So we do exactly the opposite. They give people drugs and a place to do them, and vending machines where you can get your paraphernalia, and we will forcibly scoop you up and take you to treatment. And ramped up thousands of treatment beds. And guess what? Our overdose rates are plummeting and theirs are rising. Before we get on to more, I want to talk about how they went hard on Trudeau, but I have to read a special message from our friends at Rumble. So this sponsorship readers equally. No one thought platforms would censor political conversation or censor opinions on COVID, but they did. Facebook, I'm looking at you. Facebook admitted they felt the pressure from the Biden and Harris administration. They did the exact same thing here in Canada. Health Canada officials would call up Facebook and have your Facebook post taken down. I've seen the documents. However, Rumble did not do that. They held the line. They are attacked daily for giving us a voice here at Rebel News to talk to you. They're attacked in corporate media. They're attacked by governments like France. They're attacked from brand advertisers who refuse to work with them. Corporate America is fighting to remove speech. Rumble's fighting to keep it. Rumble, however, won't survive with just brand advertisers because they don't get much of it. So watching our show right now, this on Rumble, is the most they can ask of you. But if you really believe in this fight and you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium. Look, if you've got a YouTube Premium subscription, just cancel it. Give it to Rumble. Join the community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in, I love this, our human right to free speech. Rumble is offering $10 off with the promo code STUDIO when you purchase an annual subscription. Go to rumble.com/premium. Use the promo code STUDIO. Like I said, if you have the means and believe in the cause, now's the time to join Rumble Premium. If you don't have the means, well, heck, we're just happy if you watch us on Rumble. So that's our message from our friends at Rumble. We've got some, like I said, I said I would read the free chats if they're clever and insightful. One from Roniem says, Carla Beck means she's proud of the NDP destroying all the provinces they take control of. Yeah, Alberta just recently lived through that. BC's doing the exact same thing. I really appreciated Scott Moe on the affordability issue because he drove home the fact that the carbon tax, which the NDP supports, and the federal NDP, which is the same as the provincial NDP, are supporting Justin Trudeau on that, preventing the rest of us from having our carbon tax election. He said when they touched on the affordability issue, which is a losing issue for Carla Beck because Saskatchewan is deeply affordable, comparatively speaking, but the carbon tax is one of the single largest drivers of inflation, and she supports it. And Scott Moe pointed that out.
That's right. You can't get away from those relationships with the provincial NDP and the federal NDP and the federal NDP's relationship to the federal Liberals. They are all in bed together, no matter what they say, to try and skirt around it. Because Carla Beck tries to say that she's anti carbon tax because she's in Saskatchewan. She literally wouldn't survive if she said that she was supportive of it. But they are all in bed together, and it is because of their complicity that we are suffering in the way that we are in Canada. And so I was so happy to see Scott Moe go after them the way he did, tying up those little relationships in a neat little bow and saying, none of us are going to escape this until there's a change in the federal government.
I also really appreciated that Scott Moe did the joke. He did the joke. He said, and again, Uncle Scott Moe knew all the statistics. He said, look, we create a new job in Saskatchewan every half an hour. And then he said, we'll create 2 in Saskatchewan while we're talking right now. That's the Scott Moe track record. But when the NDP were in charge, they did create a job every half an hour. They did it in Alberta. And that's the joke. That joke has been around forever. And she just walked right into it like a big old leg snare.
Just like that. Just didn't even see it coming. No. Well, that's what happens when you don't listen. That's what happens when you don't listen and you say, that's not true. That's not true. That's just not true. That's not true. It's not true. No, she didn't have many better arguments.
No, I thought the pronoun thing would be such a huge issue in this. I thought it was completely absent.
Glossed over.
And that completely shocked me. because of how hard the unions are on this. And it is one of the things that the NDP are completely divergent from the Sask party are on. But this debate was led by journalists who I think read the tea leaves. And I
You're
think
right. You're
there's
right. Those are.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You're right about that. This debate was led by 4 journalists, all of them belonging to mainstream media that's being funded by the federal government. So no, they wouldn't bring it up. They would not bring it up. Of course not. This is CTV, Global, CBC, and Post Media. All 4 of them are being funded by the federal government. So no, they wouldn't bring it up. But I'm just going to give you a real tiny little story, Sheila. We have another scandal brewing in Saskatchewan as it pertains to gender and schools, and it is so juicy. I can't say much right now because we've got to confirm all the details, but we're gonna have to talk about this together because it is like it has all of the elements. It just has all of the elements, and there's no way that you can get away from it. Today, our education minister, Minister Jeremy Cockrell, was asked to comment on this story, and he said every student has the right to feel safe, and every parent has the right to know where that their child is safe. This is in relation to 2 biologically male boys invading the change rooms of biological girls in a little town called Balgony, Saskatchewan. And he said it's the expectation of the parents and the minister that the school division has a policy stating that students of one biological gender are not permitted in the change rooms designated for the other biological gender. This story, Sheila, is so juicy. I can't wait to tell you the details. It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
Little tiny
Yeah, but that was
Balgony, that's like hundreds of people.
Yep, hundreds of people. And the details behind the story are just insane. So we're going to have to talk about this later on in the week. Yeah, but Sask Party, I mean, props to Minister Jeremy Cockrell for pointing that out, is that if Sask Party is reelected, they're going to make sure that the biological gender of children use the right washrooms and use the right services, because the school is expecting 165 girls to use the gender neutral bathroom and let the 2 biological boys use the women's washroom. So there.
Oh my goodness. And this stuff is exactly why the unions took the province to court.
Yes.
Because they want to make sure that the teachers who are allowing this to happen get in zero trouble whatsoever.
That's
Which
exactly
means the
right.
law
And
is operational, but not actually operational if nobody is required to enforce it.
With no consequence, exactly that. They want it to be found what was operational but non-constitutional, so that they can keep doing what they're doing. And and the school division took the boys' side, and I think it's real prudent just to say that Saskatchewan has a municipal election coming up on November 13th. Nothing could be more important than your school board trustees. You are only voting for school board trustees that will eject this and these policies, and we have that right from we have that that hype coming from our Minister of Education right now. So,
how many seats are in Saskatchewan? 62. 60.
61 or 62, yeah, somewhere in there.
Yeah, 61, yeah, because I think a majority is 31 seats. Saskatchewan party's projected to win 40 or somewhere between 34 and 48. I think it's going to be more than the 40 that they're projected. And the NDP, they're actually, the longer this goes on, the worse they're doing. Because Carla Beck is not great. Yeah.
She didn't come across as somebody who's approachable or who understands the issues that are sort of unraveling in the province so many times at the behest of her Saskatchewan unionized workers. The unionized workforce are bringing a lot of these issues to the people of Saskatchewan, and she didn't seem to want to acknowledge that in any way.
Yeah, it's funny. Scott Moe pointed that out, that she completely excluded like Saskatchewan's major private industries from her platform, like agriculture, oil and gas, potash, like all the things that make the world go round. She just thinks that government is the only industry in Saskatchewan, and it is the NDP. So there was a time in Saskatchewan when that was really true.
Yeah, yeah, he's got a much better understanding about the nuance between our urban and our rural split. Without question, there is a difference between those two groups, but he's got a much better appreciation for those two. Whereas Carla Beck would say, and did say, that rural Saskatchewan has no services and it's inhospitable, and people aren't moving there because they don't have the services. Well, you need to create an economy, a private economy that is going to bring those services to those small towns, and those aren't government jobs, Carla. Those are not government jobs. That's private sector economic development right there. So
I also appreciated Scott Moe reminding everybody that while the NDP were in charge a long time ago, what did he call it? I wrote it down. When the NDP were in charge, he called them the dark days of decline, loss, and closure. And that it's not that far away in an Albertan's memory, 2015 to 2019, but it really was. Downtown Calgary, dark days. Downtown Calgary, lineup of cabs, layoffs at an oil company, and people coming out of the offices with their boxes in their hand. And it was thousands of jobs in a week, all the time, because the NDP were like standing out there in the oil patch like scarecrows. Someone wanted to land and plant some money. They're like, get out of here. And it would go to places like Saskatchewan and South Dakota. And, I hate to say it, but an NDP government in Saskatchewan would be really great for Alberta, but I just don't like to see my friends suffer.
No, we don't want that. And make no mistake, we do not want that. Make no mistake. The people of Saskatchewan remember what it was like for Alberta in those Notley years. Your oil and gas sector took a beating, an absolute beating. Your coal sector took an absolute beating. There would be large, humongous swaths of Saskatchewan that would just have their entire economies ground to a halt if the NDP got in Saskatchewan. We must not let that happen. I mean, the stakes are just much, much too high. And never mind that she's spending money that we don't have right now, that we don't have. I mean, again, her entire platform is uncosted. One of the things that she brought up, though, that I wanted to bring up is in education. They're talking points about class size and complexity. So again, some of the larger class sizes in Saskatchewan are wholly due to the influx of new Canadians that are coming to Saskatchewan, which is the fault of our Liberal NDP coalition in Ottawa. My kids go to school in class sizes numbering 63 and 55 kids per class. Just think on that, 63 and 55 kids per class. That's huge class sizes. However, again, that's the fault of Ottawa for the immense amount of immigration over these last couple of years. But she brought up class complexity. And this is something that I want to touch upon, because classroom complexity is the predictable result of the inclusion that Carla Beck, the NDP, all of the wokesters talk about all the time: diversity, equity, and inclusion. When you include every single issue that you can include without allocating resources properly and without putting the needs of the students first, you get complexity issues. I mean, if you want to deal with the complexity, you need to deal with the inclusion, and that's something that I think we're going to do as a whole bunch of new trustees come November 13th in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, I made some notes as she was talking about that, because they talk about classroom complexity issues. And that's a thing, of course. However, how do you deal with classroom complexity by replicating the same cookie cutter classroom all over the place? These people are deeply against a diverse makeup of what the school system looks like. For example, in Alberta, we've got charter schools, which are fully funded.
Oh, yeah.
We've got private schools where the funding follows the child. And by the way, the people who put their kids in private school in Alberta, their average income is lower than that of the average, because there are no financial barriers for people to access a private school. So people who are in a lower socioeconomic demographic say, good schools are our way out of this for the next generation, and they'll put their kids in private school. And same thing in Saskatchewan as the NDP in Alberta. They really want everybody to be in these little education factories that all look the same without recognizing that kids are different, the values of their families are different, and kids have different interests in Alberta. You can go to a military academy or a hockey academy or whatever, and there's really no barrier for entry besides distance. You can go to the classical academy. There are so many different types of schools in Alberta. And so to hear the NDP complain about classroom complexity without providing other options for what a classroom could look like, their solution is just dump a pile of money on it instead of saying, well, maybe we need to try something different than what we continue to do and do and do. Like, we've tried nothing different and the problem still exists. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, exactly that. A parent really recently suggested to me that the teachers union in Saskatchewan may be dealing with their own class size issues by being so horrible to parents that parents are unenrolling their students. And I went, there could be some truth to that, because they are so, I mean, there are classrooms that are so completely overloaded with kids, with teachers that are just at the end of every single rope, that in the absence of a slowdown in the amount of kids. And listen, we can't help the amount of kids that are coming into schools, right? They're just there, and we're just going to accommodate them. But it was really interesting that the parent floated that theory that they're dealing with their own classroom size issues by being awful to parents. So this is in public education in Saskatchewan. The Catholic school system in Saskatchewan has never been so popular. I mean, you've got parents in a mass exodus out of public education in Saskatchewan, and for a good reason. We've been relegated to the role of inconvenient and an awful observer in our own children's education, when in fact, if we had more of a say, if parents had more of a say, we would have the best education system in the country. Saskatchewan students right now rank second last in math and third last in literacy. And this is not because our kids aren't bright and resilient. Whereas Alberta kids run circles around us every year. They're consistently in the top 4. This is because the work of Carla Beck's teacher union employees have been so completely off focus these last 10 years. I mean, this is what we get for 10 years of critical race theory, of climate alarmism, of gender and diversity and equity and inclusion. This is what we get. Kids that are being failed, and when there is absolutely no excuse for it.
Yeah, it's funny that Carla Beck, at least she can recognize that certain sectors of Saskatchewan are falling way behind. But it's not the private sector, Carla. It's the sectors the big unions are in charge of. And those are your people. That's your circus. Those are your clowns, Carla. We should get to, we've got a few little chats. We've got one from Rocky Mountain Duke, who says, Beck wants more money in education for drag queen story time and pornography.
Perhaps. It would be funny if it weren't true, but it's so true. Yeah.
Western Standard has joined the chat. Our friends at the Western Standard say, hey, that's us. Thanks for sharing that important story on Balgoni. Yes, they covered it. They really do a great job of covering local conservative issues out here on the prairies.
Bravo, Western Standard. Thank you very much. We're going to be talking a lot more about your little story. That's a humdinger, and wait until the details come out. It gets so much better than that initial like little teaser of a story. Oh, we're going to tease it out. It's going to be good.
But Western Standard, it's my story now, okay? Lisa has the details, so don't chase her down. Back off, guys. All right. We've got another one. 2 flips, 3 twists says, that's an insane class size. I'm 38, went to private school, never more than 20 kids. Yeah. But you probably learned something too. I bet you don't think that boys can become girls just because they woke up feeling that way.
Right. I bet none of your teachers told you that either. There was another, hey, can we just talk about Just Bins for a quick sec?
Sure.
Okay, guys, if if you're not from Saskatchewan, you need to get on the internet and follow this company called Just Bins. It is a literal garbage company. They have guys in trucks that pick up bins and take away bins, and they're a garbage company. But they have created the most amazing citizen journalist gig in Saskatchewan. They were literally voted Saskatchewan's most trustworthy news source last year.
Mhm.
And then you know what? You know what happened? They didn't redo those categories. They eliminated those categories because it was so embarrassing for the CBC and the
So
mainstream
funny.
media. Oh,
These
there they are.
guys are
Oh.
so funny because they started off like sharing memes and stupid things as an organic way to drive traffic to their garbage company. Now they are a news company with garbage trucks at this point, and they do a really good job. People trust them. And do I know another garbage company in Saskatchewan? No. I just know Just Bins, same as everybody else. It's brilliant. Anyways, go on.
That is a true story, and they've got details on this Balgoni story that Western Standard started for us. Thank you, Western Standard. Again, it's a fascinating story. But if you guys aren't following Just Bins, you got to do it. I mean, they are doing local news in a way that nobody else is doing. I had a phone call from a parent this week that said, when their schools go into lockdown, they quickly check on Just Bins because they know Just Bins is going to have the details like an hour and a half before the schools send the details to the parents.
It's so clever because they're not a news company. So they're not shadow banned on Facebook. So if I'm on Facebook and I want to know what's happening in Saskatchewan, I just go over to Just Bins because it gets around the Online News Act. And I know exactly what's happening in Saskatchewan because they're not a news company. They're a garbage company.
No, seriously,
Brilliant.
they are the absolute best. They're the absolute best, like stars in their crown without question. And the other thing that I wanted to run by you, Sheila, because it's it is the best. We have a local legend in Regina. His name is Dancing Bob. Okay, Dancing Bob took to the streets in
There's
COVID
a video
to
of
bring
me
people
out
joy.
there.
Okay,
Perhaps you can find a video, Olivia or Efron, me dancing with Dancing Bob outside of the Saskatchewan legislature. I think it's on my Instagram. In celebration of tracking down Zach Johnstone, aka Faye Johnstone in Saskatchewan, and scaring the daylights out of him. And so it was a celebration. Who better to celebrate in Saskatchewan than with Dancing Bob? So, anyways, if you want to find that, I was cutting a rug with Dancing Bob just to celebrate. But anyways, go on.
It was the best day. So Dancing Bob is running for mayor of the city of Regina, and Dancing Bob and Just Bins have a real close relationship. Like they're sort of two of a kind. They're sort of anti-establishment. They're anti-establishment, but they're both fascinating creatures out of Regina, Saskatchewan. I just think that that's a race that we got to keep an eye on because the 18 to 24-year-olds. Okay, just found their mayoral candidate is what happened in Regina. So it's pretty incredible. But yeah, going back to that story at that like the time you danced with Dancing Bob, eating pickles, I think is what you were doing, like dancing with Bob.
I was eating bagged pickles
at the ledge. Yeah, nobody has ever really heard us tell that whole story front to back. We should tell people that story one day. That was two of the best days of my whole life, Sheila Gunreed.
We almost abducted a van full of pilots, and Faye Johnstone almost got into your Sprinter. It was just a wild story. There was crackheads. We had to throw suckers at crackheads. It was just a crazy, crazy time to be alive.
It was some of the craziest. Yeah, it was kind of two of the craziest days that we've ever experienced. It was just loaded with stuff. But hey, Carla Beck mentioned this in the debate tonight. She said that Scott Moe's people ride around Paris in luxury vehicles. Okay, that luxury vehicle that they were riding around in Paris is the exact same van that I drive, Sheila. That's a mom grocery getter. Yeah, luxury. It's a people hauler is what it is. And I thought that it was funny that she brought it up and sort of like positioned it as some sort of limousine when in fact it is a work truck with extra seats. That's what it is.
It's a cargo van. It's a cargo van.
Yeah, it is. With 12 seats, which is great.
We've got a couple more chats, and then I think we probably should let our folks in Toronto go home.
Thanks, guys.
Oh, Efron found the video of me. No, that's not the one. The video of me dancing with Dancing Bob never actually made it into the fully produced video, because why would I do that to myself? But I did post it on Instagram just as a celebratory victory lap around Faye Johnstone. So we've got a couple more chats. We've got one from Maduzca. We want to keep Scott Moe. He screwed up during the pandemic, but he's sure been making up for it. You know, I feel the same way about Blaine Higgs.
Yeah.
You know, yes, but Scott Moe, the second the convoy started rolling to Ottawa, he was like, what restrictions? We don't have them anymore. Don't convoy me, bro.
That's right. That's right.
The convoy hit Lloydminster and he's like, no lockdowns here. Don't do that to me. So
We're going to be
pretty
dead.
responsive to the people, at least I'll say that much.
Yeah, he's pretty good at reading the room. He's a pretty good guy at reading the room. Yeah.
All right, I believe everyone found that video, but we've got one more from Snoopy Bear. Says, Sheila, is there hope for a spring federal election? You know what? I don't think so. And I'll tell you why. Because Justin Trudeau, what's he going to do? Call an election now and lose, or call an election in the fall and lose? He's not going to lose any harder than he already is. I think he's down. The Conservatives are up like 25 points, down 133 seats. The Liberals are. His only ideology is power. A good portion of these idiots are just hanging on to get their pension. And so they call an early election. And so what? The NDP are not going to break ranks with the Liberals, because this is the closest they're ever going to get to the levers of power. So they may as well ride this thing right to the bottom. They've hitched their cart to this idiot horse, and it's going right off the cliff, and they're going with it. I don't think we'll see anything happen early, because they know we're going to lose. Why wouldn't we lose later instead of earlier?
We as a people should promise them 3 times the pension if they leave tomorrow, and then freeze their bank accounts.
Cheaper. It's cheaper than what they're doing to the country.
It's a true story. But then we'd freeze their bank accounts, because that's an acceptable thing to do with people that you don't like, right?
Yes. For anybody who wants to know who Dancing Bob is, they found the video. So let's just 5 seconds of this is enough. I remember this. That's good. Those are the best pickles I ever tasted. They were celebration pickles in a bag. Anyways, I hope he's the next mayor of Regina. I truly
nothing
do.
nothing would be better. That would put Regina on the map in such in like the best ways. No, you can't go wrong with Dancing Bob. He's a joy. He's a treasure and a joy and a local legend. So
he is indeed. Then we saw him at the casino, I believe, the same night. That's okay.
We did.
If you remember,
because Regina's small and we bump into everybody.
It's the smallest town. Okay, I think we should wrap up the show. This was a blast. I think the country should pay closer attention to Saskatchewan, because Saskatchewan is a breeding ground for a lot of really good ideas. The election is on October 28th.
October 28th. Yep.
Right. When's the school board election?
Municipal elections in Saskatchewan are on November 13th.
Okay, so don't get voter fatigue. Go out there and vote in your local school board election and in your municipal elections. Turn out for Dancing Bob. Turn out for Lise. These are the things that really matter. The politics that affect you most are the ones that are closest to home. So there's Lise Murrell for Regina Public School Board Trustee, Subdivision 7, serving Northwest
Regina, baby. Yeah.
All right.
NOD, baby.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Okay. Well, Lise, thanks so much for coming along on this little wild ride with me tonight. Thanks to everybody who works behind the scenes at Rebel News. Keep the lights on and keep the show going and finding stuff that we refer to on the fly. It's not an easy thing to do because we don't do a lot of planning sometimes. Olivia Efron, thanks for staying late. Thanks to everybody who watches Rebel News and who shares the stream to get around Justin Trudeau's intense censorship as he leans on the social media platforms to silence his enemies. And as my friend David Menzies always says, stay safe and stay sane.